welcome to The Father I Never Had. This section is pretty much a part 2 of the last video I done. So we mentioned a few topics, but the key topics were money and time. Okay, I mentioned a lot that they're synonymous with each other. Okay, and if you understand them, then things make sense. It makes more sense. Okay. Anyways, one of the key parts to when what we're talking about was systems. Yeah, so when people talk about being controlled, the system, the matrix, the one percenters, the Illuminati, or whatever you want to call it, right? All these fancy names that we've never touched the thing, we've never actually physically seen it. No one can post a video and say this is that. I mean, everyone has ideas as to what it is or who it is, or and so when you delve deep enough, you start to delve into, I guess, creation. You're talking about, the language we speak, frequencies, energy, reality, what are dreams, your blood, mother and father, creation, how we operate, the days of the week, the hours of the day, cycles, a whole bunch of things. Instruments, music, sound frequencies, cymatics, Admiralty law. There's a whole bunch of things, right? All these things, flat earth. Again, a big one, a taboo topic, but all relevant. Okay, so I mentioned the last one, the significance of astrology. Okay, the days of the week. Yeah, you got Monday, what's it called? Lunes, which is the moon. Was it Marte? Lunes, Marte, Miércoles, whatever. Okay, so in Spanish, all the days of the week are all the luminaries. Okay, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn is Sábado. The Sabbath. Which is actually Saturday, and Sunday being Domingo in Spanish, but in Latin it's actually Solis or Sol. And yeah, if anyone wants to correct me in there, jump on and comment. This is the whole thing, is to, I don't know everything. You're not watching this because I know everything. You're watching this channel because it's the be or end all. No, we're all learning here, but the key thing is that what you thought you knew before is most of it's wrong. Most of it's wrong. Most of it's operating with the system, and what the system wants you to do or prefers for you to do, so that it has a hold of you by the crutch. Yeah, it's anyways. There's a lot of questions that you start to ask. Who are they? What is that? Who controls? Who's God? If God's a person, human being, whatever, right? More than one people, or person, God, but there are more than one gods, creation, history, Tartaria, the mud floods. There's a whole bunch of topics, and they're all connected when you start talking about the money system. Most people stop at the money system because they're focused on finances. They're focused on money and making it. And don't get me wrong, same as me, like we're trying to get it. We're trying to make sure, and I mean, why do you go for money? I'm not money hungry, don't get me wrong. And most people who are going for, I'm sure they're not either. But there's a hustle that you get pushed into, and you kind of grow up into. Most people don't think about it because they just go. They don't realize why they even went in the first place. When was the first time? You talk about your first job. But that's not the point here. It's not really, the point is why everything that you do, So anyways, I guess a lot of asking these type of questions comes with challenges, and comes with, like I mentioned, my son's disabled. You start to ask that. Some people go to the idea of God. He's a gift from heaven, and bullshit. Of course he is a beautiful gift, and he's a part of creation. But his disability is not God's creation. That's bullshit when people say that. Okay, so it's uneducated people that would say that type of stuff, and I've heard it in the past and whatnot. But yeah, you can talk about a lot of things, trauma in families and whatnot. breakups, and you know, the society that we live in now, most people understand what's kind of happening, and it's not a exciting topic to talk about. You know, people like to keep busy, you know, entertained, and their minds taken more. So you're scrolling through all these fun, entertaining things. You know, I'm kind of going off topic here, but you know, it's all connected, right? Nothing against the entrepreneurs behind it, but you know, there's been a push with all this run it straight, you know, for people running it against each other and smashing each other. Who's stronger? Stupid sport, you know. It's really stupid, okay? Because bad technique, right? You get injuries guaranteed. You know, there's no protection at all. Like, there's a whole bunch of, you know, but anyways, my point is, because a lot of people like to watch it, and it strokes their ego more than anything. You know, the system likes to pit, you know, it boggles my mind that most people don't realize, right? That, and I'll talk about, say, Samoans and Tongans, just because I'm Samoan, and a lot of times what people don't realize is they always pit us together, as in against each other. Samoan versus Tongan, and who's better, you know, who was first, who ruled who. You know, I'm Samoan, and I know a fair bit, I believe, about the history, and the whole ruling Samoan thing is a whole bunch of bullshit, right? When you understand it, it's, you know, Samoan families, you know, across Tonga, and, you know, dictating things and arguing, beefing between each other. That's just one element, and it's just not even a fraction of the whole stories and mentions and things like that. You know, because you can talk about God names, you know, Ahoitu, and all that type of stuff, the Tuitonga, and who came from who, and this, that, Kanakupolu, blah, 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 okay? There's heaps there. There's a whole bunch of people starting to talk about that and creating channels on all this stuff. And what I'm trying to say in why I'm creating this channel and sharing this information is because you got to learn to discern the difference between real information, real genuine sharing of information, versus what's called controlled opposition. Okay, there's a concept called controlled opposition, right, where there are people who are like prophets, right, and they're, for those who are biblical and grew up in the Abrahamic religions, these are false prophets. These are people who are like your Elon Musks, yeah, and I'll probably hurt a lot of people's feelings there. They're probably going to turn it off, right, because you love Elon Musk, yeah. If you look into a guy named Nietzsche, and he shares an idea. I haven't read any of his books, by the way, but I've come across a lot of his concepts through other people. Thank you to those YouTube channels, right? Break it down in simple form, but a lot of the concepts of Nietzsche's, I think most people have got to start reading this type of information. If anyone can stand, sorry. I'm sure I've heard recently that a lot of his books were basically book burned, right? Because there was a lot of too much truth and supportive of an individual's stability and not being so reliant and taking control of their own self and being in control as they were, I'm sure, back in the days. Yeah, we're very reliant on the system, which is systems. Okay, when we say the system, it's an overall umbrella of everything we can kind of point out and define, right? But it's breaking down, and this is just kind of macro. There's a lot of micro things within money. Yeah, you got the systems within there. Okay, you got all the charities, the different types of business structures. You know, you got sole trader, you know, company, corporation, enterprise, NGO, whatever, all these fancy names, tax incentives here, and you know, there's different categories even just under that, and that's just, again, that's barely a fraction, right? There's a lot of things to do with money that's actually changing. You know, we can even start talking about, not in this video, you know, about crypto and how people should view that investment space, speculation space. Yeah, in simple, and I'll probably delve into it more in another video, right? But in simple, the way we should look at, say, crypto or money, because the system's changing, right? A lot of people love, what do you call it? Bitcoin, right? And it's proven itself, you know, in terms of dollars. But again, people need to really understand the manipulation of the systems and what they want to show. They want things. They want people to see a certain thing. right? But you know, and they bank on the idea. There goes another C word, banking system. Bank, you know, they bank on the idea that most people, which is the majority that control, which is all of us, most people won't really invest the time and use their brain. They'll just go and follow a meme, look at a cool thumbnail, press that button, watch a few seconds, you know, if you're lucky, a minute or two, and then form their perception, their idea of how things should be or what they should do and who they are, what is true, what is not, what is good, where they spend their time, you know? So anyways, like the crypto system, right? In simple, is my philosophy on it, is that the crypto system is going to happen. It's already happening. It's happening at the foundational level, that the average retailer, they would call it, or, you know, consumer, customer, client, whatever, us, the people who use the banking system to transfer, you know, energy, you know, to transfer money and whatnot, right? That is happening, right? It's happening. And for a lot of people, it's like, oh, how does it affect my everyday life anyways? I'll just wait for it to change, and, you know, or I've just put a few in Bitcoin. I've got some Bitcoin. It's funny, most people talk about the average person, right? Unless you're talking to millionaires and billionaires. Most people who have Bitcoin, you know, I like to say to them, oh, how many Bitcoin do you have? And they say, oh, I've got, you know, whatever. But really, you know, my response to them is actually most people don't have Bitcoin. They have Satoshis. And my point is that you have very, very small amounts of the so-called, you know, Bitcoin. Because most people look at Bitcoin and it's one Bitcoin and it's $170-something thousand or whatever, Australian dollars, right? You know, wow, you know. But there's a lot of things that they fail to understand. The average person is not really looking, and I'm hoping you're not an average person, because if you're watching these videos, you can't be that average, right? If you're even watching any one of these videos, you can't be that average, and I appreciate you watching it. But this is not just for me. It's not for me stroking my ego or saying how I want to listen to myself, right? This is really sharing what, you know, my perspective, just like you watch any other YouTube creator. I guess the difference is this is holistic. You hear me going on rants here and there, and a lot of times people think, wow, that's just too much to digest, I can't take it. I get it, but this is why I'm putting on video form. It's crazy for me to even have come across all this information. It's a lot for me to even have it in my mind, and it's a lonely place to be, right? But I'm good with it, it's okay. You know, I try to guide my kids with it, you know, as much as possible without trying to indoctrinate them, you know, and take away their creativity, their creative spirit, take away their genuine self. If anything, I'm trying to help them to, you know, draw out their genuine self, okay? By helping them to be critical, ask questions, question me, question the things that Daddy teaches, you know, question the things that Daddy does and how he does things. Does it work? You know, and most of the cases, everything that I've asked them to do to achieve their goals has worked. So they know it. And that's what matters mainly, is that within my own little family, those things are working. It doesn't mean everything's perfect, right? I'm not to paint a picture that I have it all perfect and that's why you should follow me. If anything, going back to Nietzsche, right? One of the things that Nietzsche talks about is to don't follow anyone. And that's what I'm saying about Elon Musk and those that, you know, would cry what I said about Elon, right? You know, these are false prophets, yeah? And so everyone should be seen as a false prophet. You just got to, if you want to learn, listen to everyone. Yeah, listen to a whole bunch of people. You know, I'm sure the content that you're watching right now is very different. Give it a chance, give it a go, give it the time of day. You know, watch 5 videos, 10 videos, 3 videos at least, you know, and just give it that time and just consider whether I'm trying to get something from you, you know, whether it sounds genuine, if it even makes sense, you know, so-called fact check it, whatever, you know, hate that word. It's such a new word that, you know, yeah, but, you know, check it out. Look at all the stuff yourself, right? most of the content, the information out there is going to be done by people like myself, some of them controlled opposition. So you need to know whether you're getting bullshit or you're getting real, genuine information. A lot of the information I got, a lot of the things, the concepts I got from are from people whose social media accounts weren't massive. But they should have been, especially because they'd done it from so long ago. They're the OGs. You know, in the flat earth world, you got a whole bunch of people that, even I look at one main guy as David Weiss, right? But most people don't even know the name Eric Dubay. He is probably the main guy if you're going to get the source of information. David Weiss is just doing it better. He's just more, he's doing it better. He's an app developer as well, right? So a lot of people kind of resonate with his app, which I do as well. It kind of, he's pulled a lot of information, pulled a lot of information in one place, which has made it better for a lot of people to find the information, But yeah, so in the crypto space, the main thing about, the pros and cons of it. So I've invested in something called Stella, right? And I'm not selling anything with Stella. All I'd suggest is invest a little bit in it, but here's the kicker, okay? I'm investing in it, but I don't like it. I don't like what it's going to be for, what it is set up to be, right? And it's not going to be just Stella being the be or end all, right? Just like there's an American dollar, there's a Chinese, Australian dollar, there's different currencies. There's going to be different, it's going to be split up, divide and conquer. That's one of the main topics that will be repeated across nearly every video, I want to say, is the division of the family, division of the dollar, division from Bitcoin into Satoshis, the division of the dollar, so it devalues it, devalue there, the dollar, So, but one of the main things to mention about the cons of this new system that's coming into place is, digital ID. But it's not just about digital ID. It's a case of controlling people so that you have to do certain things, whatever they want, whatever the system wants, right? And if you don't, right? The best case that we can kind of use as a case study is, imagine if this crypto was around when COVID was around, right? And it's the only way you're going to get food, or only way you're going to leave your house and do all these things or run your business is if you pass these, criteria that they set through these systems, okay? The other, and that side, doom and gloom, 1984, Orwell, a lot of people kind of get that. It's been repeated and, across a lot of other channels. But the other thing about that is smart contracts. So what a lot of people don't realize about smart contracts. So there's a cool side to it, because it makes sense from a legal perspective. You and I make an agreement to, cross paths and conduct a project. And, if this goes well, I get what I was supposed to get out of it and you yours. But if there's an issue, then it's got if and and statements, right? If this, then this is executed. If that, then this is executed. If this and that, and this and that, then these three things are executed, right? It's a mathematical formula, right? It's all maths and words, which is what I spoke about in one of the last videos. The importance of numbers and words, and digging into the etymology. And what I mean by that is digging into the real meanings and the fabric of our reality, the things that we, do, and perform every day, our routines, going to a job, paying taxes, watching television, that one's been repeated many times, television. Anyway, so the smart contracts, some of the negative side of the smart contracts is that, you can look into tokenization of what they call RWAs, or real world assets, right? And there's a bunch of guys that I'll refer to for anyone who wants to know where I got this information from. So I get a lot of them from them, but not just them, because they look into the conferences that a lot of these big players have, these meetings that these big players have, and they just capture snippets of the videos of those conferences, those meetings, and they look into charts and stuff like that. What I'm trying to say is there's an idea, right, where it's millionaires study the charts, and billionaires study the stars, right? So I like to look at it as in, you know, I personally believe in like symbology and astrology and a lot of these type of things, cycles, timing. I've just seen a bit too much to kind of, you know, neglect it and not call it true, you know. It's a hard science, it's a real science. But yeah, so what was I talking about? So smart contracts, right? One of the challenges of smart contracts is that if you have real world assets like property, and you know property prices, especially in Australia, is going crazy. It's just, as they say, going to the moon, right? It's the average income is not able to afford it, and that's on purpose. That's by design. Okay, so you need to get your head out of your ass and stop thinking that people just being too skeptical to it. You know, just look back at COVID. If you're in Melbourne, come on, yeah, don't talk shit about that. Like that was a whole bunch of staged shit that, you know, it stayed for a long time. It was a few years, yeah, lockstep. Yeah, it was, yeah. Anyways, a lot of people like to forget about that because they're like, you know, oh yeah, it's over, we moved on. Bullshit, you moved on. Yeah, it's just a new thing now. And inflation has been the one, I'm sure, that was straight after. And that's what people didn't realize. They're like waiting for the next event. Oh, just wait for the next event. Inflation has been doing that, okay? And it's important. It's not just about the dollar and the money. It's, you know, you go to a normal job and earn your dollar. Yeah, let's just say you earn $1,000 a week, right? You earn $1,000 a week. Let's say you stay at that job for a whole year. Within that year, or a few years, whatever, right? You're still getting $1,000 a week, but yet the cost of your living is going higher. Everything else is costing more, right? So your $1,000 that you're getting every week is now turned to $900 for the first year. Now it's down to $800. You're actually getting, after 10 years, you're basically getting half, if not way more than half. Your $1,000 is basically worth $300, right? In real terms. Right? If you haven't seen the bean and can price indicator, something like that, right? But it's basically the cost of a can of waddies or whatever, beans, you know, baked beans or whatever. I think it's like 25 cents or 15 cents back in those days, right? And now it's like $3 something or whatever. Now you can buy cheaper versions, but that's not the point. The same good quality is worth that much, right? And then you look at housing as well, the same type of thing. The same, you know, what your dollars could buy a house for 50 grand and 100 grand, whatever, back in those days. And I'm talking about land and house. What about dimensions? Just, you know, stay with me here. But then you get the same house and it's like, well, if it was 50 grand, it's like 20x. It's $1 million. You know what I mean? Or whatever. Excuse the numbers if it's not correct, right? But you get my point. And then you look at your wages, right? Your wages, I don't know, $500 back in the days. Now it's only $1,000. And then the value of your, you know, you're getting paid more over those 20 something years. From 500 now you're getting 1,000. But it's only doubled versus 20x or whatever. I know the numbers aren't super accurate, but you get my point, okay? So it is important to delve into the money. And it's not about, hey guys, let's teach you about money, how to make money. Go watch those videos if you want. But if you don't understand a lot of these foundational side of things, when shit changes over, a lot of people are going to be stuck, okay? I hope that, you know, that I'm setting up my family to not be stuck, okay? There's a bunch of things to do, and I'd like to share some of these things that I'm thinking of doing as well. It's no secret, you know, but it's for those who like and share this channel, and, you know, you'll be the ones to watch that video, okay? But not in this video. So yeah, there's a lot of, people call it evil, whatever, negative sides to the smart contract and crypto space. But yeah, you know, transferring wealth and monies around the world, that's all the facade. That's all the shit that people delve into. And even the channels that I watch, right? Even the people that I look at and follow, they delve into the charts and all the details, all the acronyms, all the buzzwords, right? Banking the unbanked. That's a real big one, right? If you ever hear that term, banking the unbanked, what you need to understand about that is what they promote is again inverted. It's actually not what it's about control. It's about control. Okay, and banking the unbanked is basically, there's people in Philippines and in Africa and all these type of places, remote places, that's not fair on there. It's not fair that they don't, they can't be, use a bank and transfer and get money. They got family members in more wealthier countries and they want to transfer money over, and it costs a lot of money. Yes, these are benefits. These are true benefits, but it's been hijacked. That's what you need to understand. All right. Just like the LGBT and gay thing, most people don't have issues with gays, yeah. And then they had to blow it up with all this other shit and trying to reprogram the younger generation to be something that they're not and to buy into something, That aside, people have different feelings about that topic, and we won't delve into that here right now. Back to this one here, right? So there's a lot of pros to it, that's surface level, and that's what most of the channels will be talking about. But the sides that they fail to share or delve into is the reason why you will be ahead, and be prepared for the negative sides of it. Okay. Anyways, I'm sure you get the point there with a whole bunch of things that I mentioned there, just with the one thing here. But anyways, so you've got the systems here. You got the money system, you got the education system, you got the spiritual system, you got the health, medical system, you got the political system, legal system. Heaps. There's probably way more, right? And I mentioned that in the other video. This one here is a big one, but I won't mention it too much here. A lot of people get a bit touchy with this one. Is the religion one, right? A lot of people are religious, okay? And the main thing I like to say, to keep it kosher and try not to assume I know more than you, right? It's not about that. Really, it's about being open-minded. That's why we come together here. I say what I'm going to say, and hopefully that triggers something in your mind to say, actually, yeah, well, let me test his theory, or let me look into that to make sure that what he's saying is true, or let me recheck my my religion. In simple, if you're going to church on a Sunday and claiming that's a Sabbath, but yet Saturday is the Sabbath, we can argue all day about which is true or which is not, right? Anyways, so education system is a big one, because we get educated we don't get educated in money. That's a big one. We get educated into getting a job and making money, but we don't even learn about money. All right. So I'm a big advocate of the rich dad, poor dad concepts and mindset, and I share that with my family the best way I can. So we take an entrepreneurial route. Right now I have a job, okay, but and I'll probably be in the job market for a little bit. I know I don't really match the standard person that the job market needs. So being an entrepreneur, being of sound mind, which some people call crazy, right? But these aren't the crazy stuff. It's the real things that you got to know. Most people just buy into surface level things that are on TV, and if it's not on the TV, that it's not real, it's not true, right? Anyways, the education system, it's been failing for a long time. It's failed a lot of people. It's not for everyone the academic route, okay? It's just put out that, but we can go into the discussion of it being the education system being used as a tool for creating employees, right? Which is the slavery system, right? And controlling people, and so that parents go to work and then they send their kids to other people to get educated, right? Which means that they're indoctrinating your kids, right? They're teaching them false things. They're teaching them things so that they can become slaves as well. They can become, working bees as well, right? Now, it's not about not working. It's not about not building value. It's not about contributing to society. No, it's not about the denigration of society. It's actually the opposite, right? And another thing I want to mention there as well, when a lot of people have beef and issues with, capitalism, okay? Because we've got here capitalism, right? Might as well jump into that now, but a lot of people have issues with capitalism and business owners and stuff. One thing, and this is for people who have never had a business, who have always been employees, right? Because I've come across a few of them, right? They lack the empathy for entrepreneurs. Not that we go in there hoping that people feel sorry for us. No, we know the risks. We take the risks, right? But we go and create, right? We go and create our own. And we do it at the risks that we know is, is just waiting before us, right? So, just to correct it there, because, a lot of people don't know the difference between the conglomerates, right? The massive corporations, the NGOs that are backed by governments that can't fail, too big to fail. Those massive names, right? Let's say Fortune 500 type companies, right? These aren't just companies, right? These are institutions that will never fail. And even if on paper in the news a certain one fails, it's to give birth to another one, right? It's to give birth to a new concept that they want to implement, okay? But these are the ones that you're talking about. So when people argue about capitalism and socialism, which is basically communism, right? And most people don't realize it. We come to this country, and I've been to, we've been on like social welfare type stuff, right? And Centrelink and benefits, and people think, if you didn't come to this country and have all these benefits, shut up, okay? You really don't understand how that system works, all right? It's not how you think it really works, right? So anyways, I won't delve into that too much. But basically, that socialism system, it's good to have a system that supports those who are struggling, who come from nothing or whatever, right? But not at the expense of those who want more and want to strive for more and want better quality food and better quality living conditions. Yeah, for those who are satisfied with that, by all means, no one's judging you. Right? But for those who are trying, and I must mention before I forget, this is being killed right now. True capitalism, not that true capitalism probably ever existed, right? And not that I'm a massive fan of capitalism. No, you have to understand, it's a better system than the socialist system, right? And I say that obviously personally because, I think it was the last financial year in Australia, 24,000, I think it was, small businesses went out of business. Yeah, I was one of them. Yeah, it was 2 years ago for me. Yeah, and I went from Melbourne to here. And not that I can't run it. I can run a business, but it's hard because it's like the more you do, government just makes it harder, and all the implementations of all the things that they put in place, and not even that. There's massive companies who are backed by the connections to the political parties and the right people, right? Those type of companies, they gobble up most of the work, right? They're going to be too big to fail. When you every day as a small business are struggling every month to pay the bills and make sure you're doing well and looking after your family, and you invest so much time, you provide the better service usually, right? Then these too big to fail companies, if you haven't realized, if you haven't worked in a big company and then work in a small company, the small companies have to go. It's a hustle, right? Nothing's given to you. But these big companies, I'm sure some of you guys have probably worked for them where you've had cruisy jobs. Think about it, those cruisy jobs, right? They're cruisy as, and they pay you top dollar. How the hell do you think small business, family business especially, can compete against these conglomerates? So don't put these two different levels of business in the same category when you talk about capitalism and socialism, right? We are not the problem. The entrepreneurs are not the problem. The creators are not the problem. The inventors are not the problem. Another one there. Inventions in Australia have been fucking killed off, yeah? Yeah. When's the last invention you've heard of this Australian, like, that's not backed by all these, another one, if you're not familiar with raising capital, there's no real seed capital in Australia. It's never really been, right? Startup businesses, there's a lot of the startup realm in Australia, right? And they're again controlled. It's a controlled place. I've seen it, right? I've seen it, right? A lot of the universities have a whole bunch of think tanks, yeah, and good on those who do well on those, but it's going to be the rare, right? Anyways, there's a whole bunch of shit there. Education system though, right? And I've added here skills, okay, because that's you get your skills from. The reason why I'm mentioning what I'm trying to say is, if these systems basically in lieu of the original side of things. Yeah, your natural family wealth, your the things that you own, connection to your kids, living skills, I'm talking about real skills. And everyone's different. Everyone comes from a different perspective because everyone's family history is a bit different. Where they come from a different country, look at things differently. Yep, I get it. That's why the approach has to be holistic. There's no one size fits all, but this is the better way, because the principle is what's key, right? To consider. So they control us, which means they control our family wealth. We lose history and legacy over time because the system doesn't have a time. It operates, yeah? Different names throughout history, and they're just the puppets as well, yeah? Ownership. Yeah, we lose ownership, we lose connection to kids, we lose living skills. Yeah, so me and my family, my family in Samoa, we've got land and whatnot, right? We got house and land and whatnot. And my mum and my dad and stuff, they came to New Zealand and Australia, right? And we live in Australia now. Kiani, move out of the video, please. Okay. And we've had land and we still have it there, our family, and we've got family there who are, I guess, looking after our families, benefits, which is our land and stuff like that. But I don't expect most of my family to watch any of these videos, right? But basically, we're having discussions about our family affairs, about the land and building a house there and whatever, and just to fix it up a bit and whatever, right? We've got to also pay homage to the family that are there holding it down for us and looking after the lands that, from our great-grandfathers and whatnot, right? But what I'm concerned about really is the severing of that, because most of the family have got drifted off, or into other countries, okay, gone to, so-called better circumstances. Yeah, we've got nicer houses, we've got nicer things, there's a lot of things that we're afforded here in a country like Australia, and it's beautiful here. A lot of amazing and good things here, right? But the point is, I know that we're still in a slavery system from birth, from my parents. They went there and they were part of that slavery system, right? Yep, they went and worked and got, some cash and shit like that. But when you understand that it's actually corrupted, then that's the shit that pays off your mind, when you know it's corrupted, okay? Anyways, we've got a whole bunch of this shit that will basically give it a generation or two. It will be lost to the original ancestor and the line. And then other people from other lines will be basically running the shit, right? And actually, this is happening. Even in Australia, a lot of people don't realize the white man in Australia as well, right? People have issues with the whole Aboriginal and white man and whatever. It's not even the fault of the average white person, right? It's not even about color. It's not about skin color, right? Most of the world domination through colonialism and shit, it has been white imperialists and whatever. But it's not the average person that you live next to. It's not their fault. It's not. They're not the problems, right? Anyways, so a lot of your real wealth and family wealth can be severed just because you go and drift off in the system and you get lost in the system. you know, in conspiratorial terms, you get lost at sea, right? Water language. So anyways, a lot of these are problems. The religion I mentioned a bit, the health side and food, right? Got medical there. So this is another massive system, right? And don't get me started on the NDIS and, man, we're supposed to, I remember growing up and we were taught that every generation is getting healthier and healthier. By the time we're of older age, we should be living to over 100 years old and shit. But yet people are dying at their 50s right now. Now, there's been a lot of those, especially with the COVID vaccines, right? And no one can speak against that right now because it's just an actual fact. Most people I've spoken to, they agree. They don't want to talk about it because it's kind of sad. And they're like, oh yeah, I got the vaccines, whatever. Most people have got them, okay? So I feel for a lot of people. And the new crypto system, actually, while we're there, the new crypto system. See, what I also read, right? I also read the patents, right? the patents to the SARS-CoV-2, right? Because when people refer to COVID-19, it's not COVID-19. COVID-19 is actually the symptoms. It's the name of the symptoms, replacing the word flu or influenza. That's what COVID-19 is. Okay, the real word, when you're talking about the medical terms, is actually SARS-CoV-2, right? Okay, and so, or coronavirus, the type of virus, but it's SARS-CoV-2. And so there's a patent on SARS-CoV-2, and I read the whole bloody patent document, okay? It's a lot there, but what's really good about that is that you can actually see all the barcode numbers, you can see all the details, you can see there's actually images and descriptions. It had, if I remember correctly, I could be wrong, but I'm not too far off. It basically showed pictures because, when you apply for a patent and in detail, especially it's a technology, right? You have to explain what your inventions are. And that way no one can stuff around with your invention. They can't reuse it. They can't, yeah. Anyways, so if I had the documents, hopefully I can find that again. It's probably going to be hard to find, but it basically showed like, the injections, right? The COVID-19 SARS-CoV-2 injections or virus, whatever, and how it's going to be connected to the internet. Right? It's going to also be connected to cryptocurrencies. Okay, it talks about that in there. Okay, so and that's what I was shocked. Okay, I was really shocked. And no one's going to believe me, right? Until either it happens or any of you guys actually find the document and read it. Or I share it and whoever subscribes to this downloads the document. But my job is not to do all the research here. It's, people just have to start waking up or stay asleep. Stay asleep. You've watched the Matrix, I'm sure. There's, what's his name? Cyrus in there, and he wants to be asleep. He wants to eat the fancy burger. Yeah, a lot of people want to stay asleep. Unfortunately, it's not, you know what? It's hard either way. You're almost damned if you do, you're damned if you don't, right? So I ain't judging no one, right? I ain't judging no one. It's hard, okay? It's also hard knowing, so you can't go back. You just can't, okay? You can't unsee it. Where was I at? Yeah, so it's cryptocurrency that's actually mentioned in the SARS-CoV-2 patent, okay? Cryptocurrency, connection to the internet, which is also why they have, this is my speculation, why they have all the 5G towers, yeah? So they'll create a patent, so, the signals are only strong, locally, right? Which is also a problem, your power outages and internet outages, not just power, if your internet's out, you've lost a lot of things, right? So those things will be kind of, something to look out for very, very soon. Okay. Most people won't believe it, but then when it happens, you'll look back at this and you'll see that I'm correct. I wasn't wrong about COVID. Okay. When a lot of people were angry, even my views. Okay. And so again, the main thing is I protected my family. I didn't get any of my kids vaccinated with that poison. Okay. So I done the right thing. As simple as that. Right? And most people will dismiss that as anything big. It's the fucking biggest thing. It's the biggest thing, right? All right. Anyways, so medical system, that's a big, all these are big topics. Yeah, all these are massive topics. Some YouTube channels just focus on the one topic, and that's what makes it easier to watch those channels and those videos. And I understand it. Go ahead and watch them. Okay. Hopefully you do well financially, but you got other things to think about as well. Okay. You know, just before I forget, the education system with your kids, I mentioned before, I think in another video, you know, make sure you spend a bit of time with them at home, which you should be doing anyways, reading some books with them, just talking with them, engaging with them, asking them questions. What did they learn? That's one of the key things. What did you learn today? What did you learn throughout this week? What did you learn throughout the month? Just test their skills. Yeah. But, you know, and I know for busy parents, it's very hard for you, especially if you haven't gone to school for so long, to even consider helping your kids with their schoolwork. The key thing is, it's not about you helping with their schoolwork that they're given, right? It's helping them to learn, right? There's a saying, don't let your schooling ruin your education, yeah? So don't focus on their schooling being the be or end all, right? Really, it's a minding place at the moment, but when they come home, make sure that they're learning something, because there's a lot of times now, especially in average state schools, they're actually not learning things that are going to help them progress further than you. Okay, so if you have a standard job or whatever, they're going to be programmed to be in the worst place, if not the same place. Yeah. So if you want that, by all means, just stick to that. Yeah. And the other one's political and legal. All right. So anyways, the systems. I know it makes sense. It's a lot to take in. It's a lot to consider with whether the things that I'm talking about is true, is worth looking into, is worth kind of paying attention to. It's not just looking into, it's about paying attention about the systems that run your life, things that matter, okay? And one thing to mention here, I've got the key word here, reliance. The problem with this is it makes us reliant. If we, you know, like basically we're reliant on everything here, on the system. And the goal is to re-empower ourselves, take back, you know, most control at least, and be self-reliant, or part of it is being self-reliant. So, you know, my goal is for my family is to try and get us to that position, right? It's a process. It's a process, guys, right? Yeah, anyways, you got here capitalism and communism, which I already mentioned. I had another idea on that, but and it's not a debate here, okay? It's just, again, all these things are to mention. You know, if you're not keen on listening to what I've mentioned there, then obviously this channel's not for you. Okay, anyways, so we're going to go on to the next part here. We've got life foundations, right? These are just, again, these are all just concepts that come to me of how to break down a lot of this information, okay? So, you know, in your life, you've got your mother and father, it gives you, it creates you, right? And people can even get triggered by that, right? Basically, the creator of my kids is myself and my wife, right? We're the ones who created our kids. Now, you know, you can delve into the realm of creation and creator and say God created, you know, whatever. Okay, that's the case. But on the everyday level, every human being here, you know, we are our kids' creators. Okay, that's the truth. And I'm saying that because it actually applies to the title here, Life Foundations. The foundations of life is that something creates that thing, right? Okay. You got food here. The food, you need food obviously to live. You need a home or shelter or ownership to have, you know, a good life, I guess. And you got family and a tribe, protection and safety, good for life foundations, skills and purpose, good for life foundations. There's probably other things that we can break it down to. I just wanted to mention those things to kind of reiterate the points of what I mentioned before, right, about those systems. All right, but this is basically the foundations we've got to get to, right? Obviously, this is, you know, you create a family. And two, I've got here next to food, I've got glyphosate in my blood tests, right? So glyphosate, the reason why I mentioned that is because most of the problems that we have health-wise, you know, you can talk about vaccines, you can talk about spraying of the skies, you can talk about a whole bunch of shit. But, you know, with the food, you got glyphosate is the number one key ingredient, right, in a lot of the problems that we have when talking about reactions to certain foods, right? So a lot of people say gluten-free, gluten intolerant, celiac disease, and bloating, and a lot of stuff like that. A lot of it's to do with the bastardization of the food system, right? You don't just get your foods, you get your food plus sides. You get, side effects. You get your food plus, what is it? Plus sides, such as pesticides, fungicides, herbicides. You get your food plus sides, right? And so glyphosate is the key damaging ingredient in there. I'm pretty sure I came across the whole gluten-free is a whole bunch of bullshit as well, right? Basically, it was a way of saying, hey, these are the normal foods, which are not the normal foods, it's the bastardized foods, right? But all these normal foods, but then if you want gluten-free, here's the different product, right? So instead of saying, oh, actually, you want the bastardized food that has all the pesticides and shit, but if you want the old school food that used to be made back in the days when your parents, before colonization, all that type of shit, right? Yeah, the food's over here in this aisle that we call organic, Whole Foods, whatever, right? So that's just wanted to mention there about this type of stuff. Another one I mentioned here, it's probably not really applying to food, but my blood test. So I had a blood test recently, right? And this is I don't have a doctor. I don't really have a doctor. I don't care to have doctors managing my health, right? Look, it's a job for most of them, and that's what a lot of people don't realize. It doesn't mean that they're bad people, but the way their job works is that they need customers coming through, right? If they refer you to a naturopath, and the naturopath gets you on the correct vitamins that you're deficient in, and it solves your problems, right? Then there's less need, at least, for the mainstream doctors, right? And that normal health system diminishes, right? But it's been growing massively, right? And so, anyways, a lot of them are incentivized to sell products and to redo tests. So I had a blood test about a month ago, right? A different doctor, and I couldn't rebook the doctor back for my results, but I booked it for a different doctor. And what happened was he sat me down and asked me a bunch of questions like, what's my concerns? I told him a little bit of bloating, gut health. I get dry skin sometimes, okay, but knees and elbows and knuckles usually, and thinning hair. So I've had thinning hair since I remember. It's been a long time, right? A lot of people don't realize it, but I've got thinning hair, okay? I've spoken to my naturopath today, actually, and which has been really good. But back to the story. He's basically said to me, oh, okay, I'm just going to send you for another blood test. I want to get a blood test done again. And I asked him, well, what do you mean? We just got the blood results there. You already showed me the blood results. He's like, yeah, I just want to get it done again. He kind of reminded me, I kind of looked at him and like, nah, I'm just going to go to my naturopath, mate. And because it just kind of reminded me what, the way he treated this situation with me at that point in time is a perfect example of the problems of the system. Is one of the parts of the problems, when they don't actually think critically, and they can't, because if they think critically, they would actually solve a problem. They won't have a job, okay? And so a lot of people feel sorry for them, but it's like, no, like, feel sorry for the people who are suffering through pains and things that they don't need to go through for the rest of their life. They can solve it, at least really alleviate it, lower cost and more natural remedies, We've got to get back to more natural responses, natural treatments and solutions, okay? So I got my blood test script, and I told him, oh, look, I might use it another time. It's valid for a whole year, right? But so I got in touch with the naturopath, and she was really nice, actually. So everything that I thought that was going to be I was lacking, which was the B vitamin complex, okay, B1, B6, B12, and she agreed with me that according to what she read, because I sent her all my results, my blood results, and she wasn't surprised by the doctor's response. She said, look, that's how it works, so she said, no, you're correct, but she said, I really want to get you on B12. And she said, most people, and a lot of people don't realize it, but it's actually proven that a lot of the times you can solve your thickening the thinning of your hair problems, hair loss, and I don't know about other hair losses, through B12 shots. Yeah, having B12, picking it up. So I know I'm low in the B complex. Okay, there's a whole bunch of other things, magnesium and fish oil, and she wasn't too sure about vitamin D because it didn't have it. They didn't do that test, right? But whether my body's not absorbing a sufficient amount of vitamin D, a whole bunch of things, right? There's a whole bunch of things to work on, but that's actually a protocol I want to go on now. So anyways, this is why you question things, because if you just followed whatever the doctor said, if you just followed whatever the teacher said, you're going to get a result, but it may not be the best result. It may not be the solution you need or that you want. And a lot of people just trust the systems, the people that wear a badge and say, hey, I'm this and that, so just question these things, all right? Okay, so the other one is home, shelter, and ownership. A lot of this ownership is going out the window, all right? Probably by 2030, at least by 2050, but pretty much ownership is going to be gone, okay, non-existent. The system is moving towards a system of, you've other people in the startup world. A lot of people in the startup world have heard this concept of, when they talk about the success of Uber, right? And it's the idea of Uber doesn't own any vehicles, but they control that whole system, right? So the idea is own nothing and control everything. Okay, and it sounds very similar to the WEF Klaus Schwab's comments on you will own nothing and you will be happy, right? So basically, there's a few things they're going to implement that's going to remove ownership of a lot of things, businesses and homes and just a whole bunch of stuff, right? All the assets of the world are going to be owned in the ledger through this crypto system, right? And those smart contracts can block you from, technical ownership of the asset. Okay, there's a lot of people that actually articulate this very well. I can't remember his name, but I'll mention it if anyone asks, right? And we'll definitely delve into those people and the stuff that they share, right? Another time. But so this is really important because it's like a bare minimum to have a home. Everything's going to be rented. Okay. Also, the middle class is being killed off. If you haven't realized that if you're middle class, you'll know what I mean, right? If you're poor, you'll probably have no clue, and you're probably loving it because the system's feeding you with a lot of things just to keep you happy, which gets your votes, keep you enslaved and not thinking with your mind, right? A lot of the conglomerates, they're good. They got the connections. They know how to shift and move and be. And so even when people hear of this concept of, this is what the trillionaires do. They own nothing, but they control everything. Cool story, bro. But do you all think that you all are going to have that kind of level of freedom to own nothing, but control everything? Bullshit. You're going to control little to nothing. Okay? That's the whole point. When they talk about that, it's actually talking about the system owners, the people who run this shit, the domini, the people who run this place, okay? They are going to technically own nothing but control everything, right? Because it's going to be owned through the system, right? The crypto systems that's going to be, all the rails that all the assets are going to be, placed on, that's the system that possibly could be the beast system, but it's going to be the system that's going to have real ownership and protection through the policing system or whatever, or the authorities, right, to support protecting that system, right? But there's no one person you can call to complain to. There's not going to be a way for the average person to argue back and fight back. And also what they're doing is kind of even removing it from connection and under the purview of the law. I'm not talking the legal system, just like the law in general, right? But that's the other problem with this new system, is it's kind of out of the purview of the legal system and the law, right? Okay, so anyways, there's a lot there. Family and tribe, protection, safety, skills and purpose. We need to get to the point of building skills, okay? And I'm talking about how to plant trees, how to make food, how to cook and clean, all that type of shit, but how to make for yourself so that we can get the foundations back, okay? All right, and not be so reliant on the system. Living in a country like Australia, it's very hard unless you have that generational wealth passed to you, and there's ways you can kind of shift, your wealth and whatever. But even the taxation system is going to penalize a lot of wealth. So that's what I'm saying. A lot of people who are in the middle class, which is basically most of the world, is the poor class and the middle class. The middle class is getting burnt because through wealth taxes, once they implement all this wealth tax and superannuation, basically anything to do with getting, if you own assets because you were gifted it from your grandparents or parents, that's going to be taxed. Yeah, and the new system, especially with the younger generation, if they receive that, they're going to go, yeah, I'm going to put it on the system, I'm going to put it on the whatever. But the next generation is probably not even theirs. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of problems with it, and it's going to be taxed. The value of it, you're going to be taxed on inheritance, right? And it's going to constantly be taxed on inheritance. And if your value of your house is not going up, it's just basically losing value because you're going to pay these taxes. I'm not saying that that's how it's going to happen exactly, right? That's just a quick description for mentioning some of the problems that I foresee. Okay. I mentioned here a couple of things here: water, seas, admiralty, commerce. Basically what I'm talking about is the language that we speak is the water language. That's why we call it a partnership. Your birth certificate is not your birth certificate. It's not BIRTH, it's BERTH. Mothership parks at its birth. Yeah, river banks. Yeah, river flows, the currency flows between two banks. Yeah, this is water language. The ship docks, the doctor. There's a whole bunch of water language stuff that there's been a lot of people that I've seen a lot of this stuff over the last 15 years especially. Some of them have passed as well, and I feel for them. But these are the truths. These are the underlying clues to how the system works and why there are people who suffer and struggle, and third world countries and whatever, all these wars and stuff. People feel sorry for them, but because they have safety, but they don't realize, if you really feel sorry, like, understand what's happening in their country is a big shift. It's a big change, right? Cycles. That's why it's important to understand cycles. Where is the world at overall from a macro perspective? And then looking at micro perspective in different countries, and then looking at micro and macro in your own country. Okay, these are all important. I just mentioned the word corporation because it's dead language. It's a dead entity. It's not a living thing. Anyways, the trickery of the words. This is just a random mention. This is a random mention. So the example I like to use of the trickery of the words is when they're talking about the word aboriginal. Ab meaning not, okay? Not. So really when people mention aboriginal, and people have tried to explain that, no, it means that it's that you're original. No, it doesn't. This is why you need to understand this. It's not by accident. It's by intention that they use the word aboriginal. It actually means not original, okay? And it's by intention. So in contract law, it actually means that they are not the original people of this land, or whatever lands around this whole country, which is a continent. Australia's a continent. Yeah, so you can try and argue with me, but go and do your research around how the etymology of words, the Latin language, the Greek language, the Spanish language, and all these languages that make up the English words that we use. The English language we use is not necessarily how we think it's useful. Okay, it's contract law words, right? Anyways, there's a lot there. There's a bunch of things to reference to, but I hope you find good value in this video. Subscribe if you find this all valuable. You know, like I said, I don't think this channel will be the most viral type channel. Okay, it's not everyone's cup of tea, but this is not for everyone. This is for those who want to wake up, for those who are passionate beings who want to do better. This is for people, for fathers, especially fathers, but you know, who want to lead their family in the right way. It doesn't mean it's going to be easy. It doesn't mean that you're not going to have any challenges with whether it's your own family, all right, or even yourself. You're going to battle between I want to have business or job or whatever. I struggled to even go back to normal jobs, right? Here I am as an employee as well. Okay, so as I speak these things, it's more being aware and how I operate in these environments, and how much I give myself away to the system that I know we live in. All right, and so I'm not saying it's the perfect thing to do to have this complete change and to focus on these things. It's a slow build up of of wisdom to help you and help your family to get to a better place. All right, so I really do hope that I can add value to yourself as a father and as a mother. If you're watching this, I hope you enjoy this channel and this video. Please subscribe and share to anyone else that you believe will find value in this information. I promise that everything that I do and say in these videos will come from my heart, and you can verify all these things if you would like to. Invest in Stella. I guarantee I won't be wrong. I won't be wrong there, and you can hold me accountable for that if you want, but I guarantee you that it will be one of the winners. And unfortunately, like I said in the beginning, I don't like Stella. I don't like what it's going to be for and what it is for, right? But again, it's like backing a winning horse that the system's corrupt and it's actually it's rigged. The game's rigged. The fight's rigged. They're going to make sure that this fighter is going to win. If you know it, bank on it and win some, because the system's going to operate the way it's going to operate. That's how I see investing in Stella, at least, yeah. All right, so thank you so much. Take care. Hope you're all well. Be safe until the next video. Thank you. Bye.